Hello and welcome back. In this session, we are going to talk about your Elastic Network Interfaces, also known as ENI. Now, in the last session, we spoke about your placement groups. So once again, placement groups can be used whenever you want to control or influence the placement of your instances across the underlying hardware. We can make use of your placement groups for that. Now, in this session, we'll basically understand what your ENIs are and what it does. Once again, before you start off with the session, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. So like I said, your ENI, it stands for your Elastic Network Interface, and this is simply your networking component. All right. So whenever we launch our EC2 instances, this ENI gets created, which is your logical networking component within your VPC, and this simply represents the virtual network card. So this is simply the network card of your EC2 instance. Now, whenever you launch your EC2 instance, this gets created automatically. So for example, here if you look at this instance, and if you go to this networking, here you should be able to see the network interfaces, and this is the network interface that is created for this particular instance. And this will have all the network related information as to what is the VPC, the subnet, the security groups, in which availability zone the instance is running, the IP related information. All that information will be available in this Elastic Network Interface. Now, your Elastic Network Interface includes the following attributes. It includes a primary private IPv4 address. So it includes a primary private IPv4 address. It includes a primary IPv6 address. If available, it will include the IPv6 address as well. In our case, we don't have it. Then it includes one or more secondary private IPv4 addresses if available. So here, secondary private IPv4 address. So all this information will be available in your ENI. So it includes one elastic IP if available, one public IPv4 address, then one or more IPv6 address, one or more security groups, a MAC address, a source or destination check flag, and a description. So all this information will be available in your ENI, and that is why it is known as your network card for your EC2 instances. Now you can create and configure network interfaces and attach them to your instances in the same availability. So now by default, whenever we launch the instances, one ENI gets created. Now we call this as your primary network interface. Now if you want to create more network interfaces, you can always do that. So here you can go to this network interfaces, and depending on the instances you have, you should be able to see your Elastic Network Interfaces, and if you want, you can always create more. All right. Now any additional network interfaces that you create, we call them as your secondary network interfaces. All right. So now, some of the characteristics of your network interface. So you can attach a network interface to an instance when it is running, when it is stopped, or when the instance is being launched. So, you can attach it whenever you want. You can detach secondary network interfaces when the instance is running or stopped. However, you cannot detach the primary network interface. So whatever the network interface that you see here, that's your primary network interface. Okay. So we can never detach a primary network interface. However, if you have a secondary network interface, you can always detach it and attach it to another instance. You can move a network interface from one instance to another if the instances are in the same availability zone and VPC but in different subnets. So like I said, you can detach a secondary network interface, you can attach it to another instance, that is possible, and the condition is that they should be in the same availability zone within the same VPC but in different subnets. And if you attach two or more network interfaces from the same subnet to an instance, you might encounter networking issues such as asymmetric routing. So generally it is recommended that we should not be creating the network interfaces in the same subnet because there are some networking issues that might occur because of this. So these are some of the characteristics of your network interface. Now, when do we need these network interfaces, or let's say when do we create any additional or secondary network interfaces? Now, attaching multiple network interfaces to an instance is useful when you want to create a management network. Use network and security appliances in your VPC. Create dual homed instances with workloads or roles on distinct subnets, or create a low budget, high availability solution. So these are some of the scenarios when we will be using the secondary network interfaces. But if you don't have any of these use cases, then by default we have the primary network interface that gets created, so we just use that and manage the network traffic on the EC2 instances. So that's about the introduction that we have for your network interfaces. So again, it's your ENI, it stands for Elastic Network Interface, and this is simply your network card which contains all the network related information for your EC2 instances. It contains attributes like your public IP address, the private IP address, the security groups, the descriptions, the MAC address. All that network related information will be available in this Elastic Network Interface. That's all for this session. Thank you. Once again, before you leave, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you like the video, leave a like and please share the video.